What's up everybody, I'm iRebuilder, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be building a fish aquarium top. If you don't know what that is, I'll show you a picture of how my aquarium looks right now. So here's the fish tank I'm going to be putting the top on. There's my dog. Currently I have the lights hanging from the ceiling there, which is not the optimum way to do this, but that's kind of the only option I had. So with the top that I'm going to be building, I can put the lights in there on a shelf sort of that I'm going to make, and that should make a big difference. And from here we are going to put a top on it. So I know this isn't going to be a particularly popular video. However, for those that are in a similar situation where they want to put a top on their aquarium, they might find this useful, and that's what I'm here to do, is hopefully help somebody else out. So with that, we'll get started. Okay, if you've seen any of my previous videos, you know that I typically don't follow plans. Today's going to be no different. For my particular aquarium, it's 6 feet by 2 feet, and so I'm going to have to build the top to fit that. As far as how high the top's going to be, I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm guessing by the end of it, it should be around 1.5 feet or so tall. So I'm going to be using mainly these 1x4s here, which you can get very cheap. They're cheaper than 2x4s. I'm going to use a few 2x4s as well. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put this through the table saw, just like we do with the 2x4s in the previous videos. You can see it's got this rounded edge here. We're going to get rid of that so we can get multiple boards stacked together and make it nice and flush. So we'll get started with that. Alright, we're done with that first step, and now that I am thoroughly covered in sawdust, we can move on to the next one. So for the time being, we can set these boards aside, and we're going to start working on the 2x4s. So what we're going to do is we're just going to measure them out and get them to the length we want. For my tank, like I said, it's 6 foot, but I want this to match the bottom stand which I have, which actually goes out to 6 3/4 of an inch, or 6 feet and 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and measure that out, cut it down. I'm going to cut 4 boards that length for the top, bottom, and that's going to account for the front and the back. So we'll go ahead and do that right now, and then we'll move on to the next step after that. Alright, we've got the 72 3/4 inch boards cut with the 45-degree angle ends. Now we got to cut what's going to be the sides of the frames, and as luck would have it, which it often doesn't, the leftover bits from the front and back pieces are long enough that I can make the sides out of them, so I don't have to use any other 2x4s. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that. Alright, so we're done cutting our boards to the appropriate length with the 45-degree angles. So now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to use the router. I'm going to take about this much out. It's going to be about that deep or so. And what we're going to do is we're going to create an edge for the whole thing to sit on top of the aquarium. And that way we don't have to make any kind of other mount. It's just going to be the edge around here, around the whole frame, that's going to allow it to sit on top of the aquarium. All right, now that we've got that routed out, we've got the routed edge on the bottom, and that's what's gonna rest on the tank. You can see I've got it here pre-assembled. I'm gonna go ahead and put a couple nails in it, and then I'm gonna test fit it and make sure everything's going according to plan. Hopefully it is. All right, so I'm gonna go test fit it, and I'll be right back, and we'll see how it's going. Good morning, everybody. I think the last thing I said I was gonna do was test fit the frame, the bottom frame, on the tank and see how it fit. It fit well. Unfortunately, I got distracted last night and hung out with the family and kicking it off this morning with a cup of coffee. And I did build out the top frame, which was the same exact process as the bottom without routing around the edge. So if you're following along at all, go ahead and build the top piece. Also, this morning I started gluing the what's going to be the front together. I'm going to need to glue the sides and the back too, and I'll show you that right now. All right, here's the front piece all glued together. It should be good, so I'm going to go ahead and take the clamps off. Now we have our front piece. I think I'm going to go ahead and sand it before I attach it, just to make it easier. All right, now that we're done sanding, I'm going to put some doors on the front so that I can access the aquarium for feeding and cleaning. So I need to figure out where I'm going to put those and how I'm going to do that. I'm thinking this is 12.5 inches. I think I'm going to go down from the top 1.5 inches and up from the bottom 1.5 inches and mark it. And then to make sure it's even, I'm going to go about 7 inches in. 7. I think I'll make the access area about 20 inches long. So I'm going to measure that out. It'll probably be easier with this. I'll just make sure it's 1.5 inches from the top. And we'll do the same with the bottom. All right, so I've got my corner points. Just kind of trace a line now. And we'll put one on the other side now. Okay, so now we've got our access points drawn out, and we just got to cut them out. So what I'm going to do here is clamp this to the table for some stability. And then I'm going to put a hole in the corner here, or as close to the corner as I can get. Now you can see I didn't go right into the corner, just to leave myself some room for error, and then I can come back and cut that out in a minute. And from there, we can go this way and this way. So that's kind of a little trick. You don't have to drill every corner. You drill the opposite corner, make it big enough, you can get two angles from one corner. And there we go. Now we'll just clean up the edge we drilled on, and we'll be done with this portion. We'll move on to the other side. All right, now we'll do this side. just gonna sand around the edges. I'm gonna clean up the corners where I drilled, and we'll be done with this portion. All right, so now we are ready to sort of assemble a little bit. We're not completely done with all our building, but we're gonna do some assembly, just the front piece. We've still got to glue together the sides and the back. We'll get to that in a minute. I've already cut 3 of these 2x4s. I'm gonna have to cut 3 more. I've got them at 20 inches, I believe, and they're gonna go in each corner and then one in the middle for support. One thing to remember is you've got this gap here you routed, and that's what's gonna rest on the tank. So if you were to just put it on the ground like this and drill it in, you're gonna make it so that it won't sit flush where you route it out. So I'm using this spare piece of wood. I'm gonna stick it in the corner and then put this on top of it and then drill it or screw it in. And that'll keep it so that once you put the whole thing on top of the tank, it'll rest down properly. So now you can see it coming together a little bit. I'm not going to put the top on yet. I'm going to go ahead and glue up the back and the sides, get those put on, and then we'll put the top on. The next step is going to be to glue these pieces together, the 1x4s, for your back piece. I cut these to 73 inches exactly, and that's going to fit my aquarium. Again, everybody's aquarium is going to be different, so if you're building one for yours, you're going to need to take the measurements and adjust everything for your aquarium. So at this point, you want to try to get everything as even as possible. That's going to save you a lot of heartache later. All right, so we've got this all clamped together while we let it dry. We'll go ahead and we'll cut the side pieces and get them ready to glue. Okay, I've got my 4 1x4s here. I'm going to go ahead and cut them. I'm cutting them to 17 1/4 inches. I'm going to cut all 4 at the same time. There's kind of a pro and con with doing that. The pro being that you're saving time. The con being that if you mess up, you mess all 4 pieces up at once. So it takes me a while to build. It takes me about twice as long, if not longer, to build these things when I'm recording, because I have to constantly move the camera around and go and hit record and stop recording and then all that. So I'm going to try to save a little time here by cutting all 4 at once. So that's one side, and this will be the other side. The only thing left is to glue them, and at that point, I think we're just going to be doing assembling. Okay, while we're waiting for the back to dry, and then we'll move on to the sides, we also need to make the doors that I'm going to have over the access port here, and then it's going to fold up like that so that I can reach inside the tank. So we're going to go ahead and measure, and you remember we made the length of the access area 20 inches. Well, the doors are going to need to be a little bit wider. So I need to cut these boards at an 11-inch intervals, and then we'll glue them together as well, and that'll basically be our door there, and we'll put some hinges on it. So we'll cut one, we'll test fit it, and we can use that as our template for marking the additional boards. And you can see it lined up here. This is how I want it to look on the outside. I'm going to now cut some supports for the inside using this board here. Kind of like this. I'm going to have one closer to the bottom and one closer to the top. I want it to fit inside the access port, so I'm going to cut it shorter than these are. I've measured, and we know from earlier it's 20 inches. So I'm going to go 19 and a half, and that should give it room on either side to fit in there nicely. So we'll go ahead and do that now. We'll cut 4 pieces at 19.5 inches. I'm gonna go ahead and glue all this together, clamp it, and then we'll put the support boards on there. There we go. So we'll go ahead and sand this down a little, and then we'll work on the next one. All right, we're all done with the back piece. It is dry, got it sanded. I'm gonna attach it to the back. I've got the sides over there glued up and clamped, and hopefully they'll be dry soon, and then we'll get it all put together. So we'll put this on for now. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a support beam going across here. The reason I'm doing this is because later on I'm gonna add a 2x4 going lengthwise, and that's what my lights are gonna hang from. I wanna make the lights removable so I can just pull the 2x4 straight out with the lights and everything in case I really need to get inside the tank. So what I'm gonna do is add these 2x4s. I've got the other end attached already. I'm gonna put one here, and then the 2x4 that goes lengthwise can just rest on top of that. We're getting very close to being finished. The sides are gonna go on next. Then we'll do the doors. Add that 2x4, which is just cutting it to the proper length, and we'll be done. Okay, we're nearing the end at this point. I decided to go with a 1x4 instead of a 2x4 just for the sake of weight. This thing's already getting kind of heavy. The tank can support a lot of weight. I mean, it's got 150 gallons in it plus all the rock and everything. But still, I want to try to manage the weight a little bit. So I'm going with a 1x4 instead. It's a little more flexible, but it shouldn't have a problem holding up the lights. Now to cover this up, I'm going to put a 1x4 strip right here on each corner, on each of the 4 corners. So I'm gonna go ahead and measure that. And we're right at 12.5 inches. All right, after doing some test fitting and cutting and routing, I came up with this piece here. You can see I routed out the edge there. And that allows it to sit flush because this side, the front piece and the back piece stick out a little bit further than where this sits. So that lines up perfectly, and it covers up that gap there, and it just gives it a nice touch. So I'm going to cut 3 more of these and then add them on. After that, the only thing left will be attaching the front doors, and we'll be done. Just got to paint it after that. So I'm going to knock this out. Okay, on to one of the final steps here. We're going to be putting these hinges on. I decided instead of having it hinged at the top, I'm going to do it on the side just so it'll match the bottom cabinet. Okay, we'll go ahead and attach the hinges to the tank cover now. We're going to drill out the holes. Also, just a little tip, it's easier if you lay it on the side so that everything's facing up. That way you're not having to try to hold it in place while you're doing this. I know that might seem like common sense, but when you start getting to an end of a project, you get a little excited. You can make mistakes or just not think about simple things like that. Okay, and the finishing touch is we're going to add this handle to the door. So if you remember, we have the 2, I guess you can't see from this angle, but we have the 2 beams there holding these pieces together. So I'm going to drill right between them. Get snug. Project is complete, other than painting. I'm going to flip it back over and we'll take a look at it. All right, everybody, we're all done here. Project is finished. Only thing left is to paint it and put it on top of the aquarium. hopefully at the end of this video you'll see what that looks like. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and yeah, if you have any comments or questions, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I've really got for this one. All right, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good day.